Fights on the football field are a part of the game and oftentimes is what drives fans off their seats. This is a moment when players from opposing teams let their emotions get the better of them during a game, but on some occasions, sometimes the two sides that are beefing are actually teammates. Occasionally, fights among players wearing the same jerseys spill over on the sidelines after maybe a misplaced throw in the middle of a game or on the practice field between two close friends. Whatever the case may be, in-team fighting doesn't always bring out the greatest look on a team because the best way for a group to achieve success is by sticking together and working as a cohesive unit. However, with that being said, in the 1990s, a huge altercation broke out amongst teammates that involved probably one of the most celebrated athletes today in Dallas Cowboys legend Michael Irvin and fellow teammate Everett McIver. This is the story of when Michael Irvin stabbed a teammate over a haircut.
Billy Martin, straight from Brooklyn, better known as Brooklyn. Never taking shorts cause Brooklyn's the bomb.
Guys, before we continue, I'd like to announce that I will be doing a PS5 giveaway, and all you need to do to enter is be subscribed to the channel with all notifications turned on. This is just my token of appreciation to all my viewers, because without you guys, this channel is absolutely nothing. That being said, I do have to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, MyBookie. Tom Brady returns to New England for the biggest game of the year, and the stakes have never been higher at MyBookie. Whether you're backing the Bucks or Pats this Sunday, the game is always more exciting when I've got money on it at MyBookie. Get in on the action and take the game to a whole new level at MyBookie. Both teams are sporting top defenses, but nobody knows each other better than Brady and Belichick. Slow and steady will win the race, smart money bets the under. Don't wait around, join MyBookie now and bet on the biggest game of the season. Use my promo code CLASHER and double your first deposit. Again, that's promo code CLASHER to get double your first deposit with MyBookie and start your winning season today. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. So, most of you probably know Michael Irvin. He's been a longtime sports commentator working with the NFL Network, but before that, he was one of the famed triplets on the 90s Cowboys team that brought home 3 Super Bowl titles. On top of that, the receiver has quite the rap sheet during his time in Dallas, involving many run-ins with the law. However, after cleaning up his image post-retirement, Michael has mainly graced NFL fans with his pre- and post-game analysis, and even more recently, as the newest member of ESPN's First Take. Anyways, going back to Irvin's incredible 12-year career in Dallas, he was a critical piece on that Cowboys team that always made huge catches in the clutch. He was by and large one of the leaders of that dynasty, so you could understand he probably had a huge chip on his shoulder when it came to interactions with teammates. And that teammate in question would be NFL journeyman guard Everett McIver, who came to Dallas in the 98 season as a free agent with the hopes of one day maybe taking over Nate Newton's position on the team. Now, to understand this story, you've got to understand the team dynamics. On one hand, you had a former first-round draft pick, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, a guaranteed future Hall of Famer, and an undisputed voice and leader in the locker room in Michael Irvin. On the other hand, you had an undrafted Everett McIver who was making his second stint in Dallas after being bounced around the league with the Jets and Dolphins, in and out of lineups, and even making an appearance in the then NFL Europe. Basically, he was a fringe player trying to carve out a spot on the roster like many others. Following the 1997 season, the Dallas Cowboys had just come off their worst campaign in the 90s, finishing 6-10 for 4th in the NFC East and missing the playoffs for the first time in 7 seasons. Again, this was a team that enjoyed much success, but after a disastrous 97 campaign, it seemed like team chemistry was trending downwards. So during the 98 offseason, the team got together in training camp at Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, Texas. After a workout, players were receiving haircuts from the team barber, and McIver, who was already sitting on the chair receiving a trim, was confronted by Michael Irvin, who coolly mumbled at the veteran O-lineman, "Seniority." And after Everett first told him that he was almost done, that's when the receiver began to belligerently scream out, "Seniority, seniority, seniority. Punk, get the F out of my chair." He then turned his attention to the barber and told him, "Vinny, get this mofo out of the chair. Tell his pathetic ass to wait his effing turn. Either I get a cut right now or nobody does." This led teammate Eric Williams telling McIver not to get up because he wasn't a rookie. For those of you who aren't familiar, rookies on a team usually go through a hazing period in their first season and oftentimes receive a little bullying from their teammates. Whether it be fetching lunch or coffees for others or being stuck with an enormous bill on a night out, rookies tend to get the short end of the stick. But with the case of Everett McIver, he was a 27-year-old, 5-year veteran in the league who for all intents and purposes played his ass off to make rosters over the last few seasons. However, for Michael Irvin, he saw McIver as just another young guy who played Division II football. Basically, he was a big guy who appeared to be lazy to the wide receiver. So as the story goes, after rejecting Michael's initial advances, Everett stood up and shoved the receiver. This led both players to shove back and forth before McIver, who stood 6'5" and weighed 320 pounds, pinned Irvin against the wall. Fellow teammates Kevin Smith and Leon Lett were both present in the brew but were unable to separate the pair, and it's at this point when things went from bad to worse as Everett took a shot at the Cowboy legend and hit him square in the face. And what Michael Irvin did next was absolutely shocking. The receiver, after getting a snotbox rock, grabbed a pair of scissors and jabbed McIver in the neck, just above his collarbone and inches from his carotid artery, which would have been lethal. Blood began to shoot everywhere around the room, resulting in the Cowboys medical team rushing in and taking McIver away in an ambulance. Everyone in the room was in utter shock as they had just witnessed Michael Irvin stab Everett McIver and had no idea what the condition of their teammate was. And if that wasn't bad enough, Irvin at the time of the incident was also on probation thanks to a coke bust in a motel room a couple years earlier. So with that being said, team owner Jerry Jones had a huge dilemma on his hands. The last thing he needed was more negative publicity about his players or even risk Michael Irvin doing jail time for violating his probation. Jerry had to figure out a way to keep the press out of the story, and after realizing he had to get ahead of the situation and act fast, the owner brokered a meeting with the two involved parties where they reached a 6-figure settlement for the guard in return for his silence and to not press any charges. This was a huge win for Irvin's camp because he could have faced a long time in prison, which would have ended his career prematurely. So it seemed as though this whole situation was swept under the rug, but not until the next morning when the Dallas Morning News got wind of the payoff and ran the story. When confronted about the story, Jerry Jones and head coach Chan Gailey called the incident a horseplay that had gone wrong and said they would be handling it internally. Jones did also threaten to remove the team ads on the Dallas newspaper as he wasn't too pleased with their coverage of the story. Everett McIver went on to receive 18 stitches and never commented on this story to this day. He would recover in time for the start of the '98 campaign and started the first 5 games this season and played another season in Dallas before finally being waived in 2000. Conversely, Michael Irvin continued to play for the Cowboys up until week 4 of the '99 season when a freak neck injury saw his career cut short prematurely. So while not much is known of Everett McIver aside from this story, Michael Irvin on the other hand has seen his celebrity status continue to grow. He has been on many talk shows, had a stint with Dancing with the Stars, and is now making weekly guest appearances on First Take. So that being said, it's kinda interesting how Michael Irvin, with his checkered past, managed to escape real prison time that would have affected his post-NFL career. And to think McIver only settled for 6 figures, which still was a lot at the time, but he probably could have received a lot more considering Michael's freedom was on the line. Anyways, this was one of the craziest stories to come out of the '90s Dallas Cowboys team, and I'll be featuring a few other stories from that era, so be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications.